Wow, this is an interesting year. It's been really hard to hold my students' attention. I'm Madame Sensei. I teach Spanish, French, and Japanese to high schoolers out here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. And this year, my bag of tricks has had to be expanded a lot. I need to be super flexible and super on my toes because things that have worked for decades suddenly are not working anymore. One of the things I really love is a game called Quiz Quiz Trade. This is a Kagan technique, and I've talked about it in another video, and I'll link it here. But Quiz Quiz Trade is, in a nutshell, you print up cards for as many students as you have in your class. Each card has a question, and then the students go around the class and they ask each other the question, and then they trade the cards, and then they go and find a new partner. So one card should make it around the class 2 times in 5 minutes if you've got a class of 30. I do have one class of 39 this year, and I have, like, my classes are super packed this year. So the issue that I'm seeing is that students aren't getting out of their bubbles. So if I've got 39 cards in circulation and the students are only talking to their 3 or 4 friends in the class, they're not hearing all the possible sentences that I want them to hear. They're not practicing all the responses that I want them to practice. Now, I'm one of 4 Spanish teachers in the district, so I have to quote unquote be on the same page with everyone else. And I found that Quiz Quiz Trade is like one of the best things that let me do that and still let me do my own crazy comprehensible input stuff. But if the students aren't getting exposed to everything that they need to get exposed to, suddenly I'm in trouble as a teacher. They're in trouble as a student. We're no longer caught up with all the other Spanish classes and what they need to know because they're going to go on to Spanish 2 with my colleagues who are very by the book. So I do need to prepare them for that. So one of the things, and I'm going to do a bunch of videos about all the different things I'm doing. One of the things I've been doing lately is another Kagan technique, which is fan and pick, and I'm going to explain it. So all you need to remember is the take a card, any card right here. So my classroom is pretty darn packed, and I have 6 table groups with 6 students around each table. And yes, I had to have the custodians bring in folding chairs for that class with 39 students. But I'm like, okay, the students aren't getting out of their friend group. How can I, like, being flexible is it's the name of the game when you're a teacher, right? So you've got to think about what are your assets? What can you work with? How are you going to make this work? Because you know what it is that the students need to practice. How are you going to get them to practice it? So I decided, fine, they won't get out of their little friend group. And for the most part, they're sitting next to their friends because it's a communication class and I want them communicating. And I tell them, I'm not going to make you a seating chart until such a time as you drive me crazy and prove to me that you do need a seating chart. And yes, I have a couple classes like that. But they know the people at their table and they're pretty comfortable with the people at their table. So I decided I was going to lean into that. So for fan and pick, first thing is, there's cards involved, and because I print up the questions that I want the students working on, I've got all the card games I could possibly want with that one deck of cards. Okay, so students are going to play one of those cards and respond to questions, and each teammate's going to have a role, and it's going to rotate with each new question. Okay, whoops, I picked the wrong thing here. Student 1 fans the cards. You pick a card, any card. Student 2 is going to pick the card and read. Student 3 is going to answer. And any other students 4 through 6, they're going to tutor. No, it's pronounced I, not hey. Or they're going to praise, buen trabajo, or whatever, okay? And so this is where they get to use all their rejoinders and everything. So that's the actual instructions of fan and pick. And I decided I don't want to assign numbers to the students because the shy students pretend like it's not their number, or they pretend like they forgot what they were supposed to do, or the other students aren't keeping track of, wait, what number are you? They're only keeping track of what number they are. And so I was like, well, how am I going to make this a little more equitable so that everybody basically does everything. And I was brainstorming and I was like, should I have them roll the dice? Should I have them spin a spinner? Should I have them draw straws? And I finally decided on a separate deck of cards. Okay, so this is what I did. Here's the Spanish one first, okay? And I just printed up basically student one, number one, you're going to fan the cards. And I put a little sentence frame. Toma una tarjeta. Student number two, you're going to pick from those cards and you get to read it aloud. Student number three, you get to answer. Student number four, you tutor or praise. And then, of course, the problem is if somebody's absent, what are you going to do? And so I just said, remove this card if absent. Okay, so that makes it much easier. Everybody can easily look down at what's in front of Bob and say, Bob, you're supposed to read the card. Fred, you got a tutor. Okay, so they'll police each other and they'll keep each other's feet to the fire on this, and this is good. I really like putting the rejoinders here. The students, they read off of it until they get confident and they remember it, and then they don't have to read off of it anymore. But, initially I only gave them buen trabajo, and I gave them que bien, I gave them excelente, but I didn't give them muy bien hecho. I only teach español uno. And we are not supposed to get to past tense, although hopefully my students accidentally pick it up with all the reading that we do and all the speaking that they hear me doing and everything. It'd be nice if they picked it up, but I'm not sure. But hey, my students know hecho is hacer now. They just accidentally learned that, okay? Enhorabuena, it's not something that I normally use myself, but now they know it. So I really like the rejoinders. I think it worked really well, and it gives them a lot of confidence, and I like it when my students are screaming at each other. I like having a noisy, boisterous class, and especially I like them building each other up instead of tearing each other down. So I'm really glad that I did that. Here's the French set. Près une carte, same thing. And félicitations, bravo, bon travail, bien joué, excellent, c'est génial, quel bon effort. And then here's the Japanese one. Kado o totte kudasai. Omedetou. Yoku dekita. Ganbatte kudasai. Dekiru yo. Ah, muzukashikatta ne. And then I really I tell them about the first time I went to see Kabuki, how surprised I was that people in the audience are just screaming the actors' names. So I love it when they do that. I just think it's so funny. It's great. And the students feel, they glow when they hear their name screamed like that. It's great. So what I did was I printed this up 6 times on cardstock, and I cut it up and I put rubber bands around each one. So I have one set for each table group. Okay, so yeah, I've got one set for Japanese class, six sets for Japanese, 6 sets for French, 6 sets for Spanish, but hopefully you only teach one thing. So you only need the 6 sets. It's not a lot to do and everything. And the students take these, so I cut on the lines here. The students take the cards and they put them face down and they shuffle them up and then they draw a card and then that's their roll. Okay. And so if somebody's absent, they'll just put these ones aside. But now they've got their role and everybody else can see what their role is. Now, the next round, they're going to put them back in the middle and shuffle them up again and take another card. What happens if they get student 2 times in a row? Where's my mouse? There's my mouse. If they get student 2 times in a row, who cares? That's fine. We play this game enough where eventually they'll get to all the roles. It's okay. What happens if they get to the rejoinders 2 times? That's fine. They can use the rejoinders more than 1 time. That's fine. The students like it more because there's that little sense of unexpectedness, the randomness, and they kind of like playing the shell game a little more, so they're a little more invested in what they're doing. Now, when I started using this with as a replacement for Quiz Trade, what I decided was I'm not going to print up 30 sets of my Quiz or 36 sets of my Quiz Trade cards, because I've already printed them. I'm not going to run down to the copy room and print them again. What I decided to do was, student 1, you just come up to me and I'm fanning the cards. You get to choose a random card out of my hand, and it's one of 40 cards, okay? Student 2, you get to read whatever card student 1 had, and then everything else is the same. Student 3 has to answer. Student 4 is going to tutor or praise, and any extra students tutor or praise. So that is working really beautifully. Now, just this morning, I was on Comprehend This podcast, which is always a blast to be on, and we were talking about how you might be in the middle of doing something really goofy and silly, and your admin walks in to do your evaluation. And I said, this works really, really great for that because um, out here in Washington State, we are using the Danielson framework. Now, maybe you're using the other one. I don't know. I don't remember what the other one is in the other part of the country. Maybe you're international. I don't know. But you've got some kind of framework to be evaluated on. And for us in Washington State and anyone using the Danielson framework, the new Danielson framework is very, very student-centered, as it should be. Okay, it should be student-centered. But look at this. Students do this, students do this, students do this, students do this. And the fact that I was doing the Kagan fan and pick really worked to my advantage during my most recent evaluation. So this is my evaluation right here. I didn't take any pictures because I was busy facilitating and I didn't think to take any pictures, and I really wish I had because it works like a charm. But this is what my admin wrote. Discussion technique is adapted for equitable participation. Roll cards distribute participation responsibilities, reader, coach, praise, etc. Students rotate roles multiple times, mix roll cards and draw again. Repeated. This is strong evidence that participation is not dominated by a few students. It's a proficient level discussion structure, especially for novices who need predictable roles. I thought, wow, that's really nice. And then she wrote, student-to-student interaction is intentionally built in. Student 3 and 4 coaches and praises. Even if the language is basic, the interaction structure builds peer feedback and accountability, which is a meaningful discussion technique in a novice setting, because that's what the principals, the vice principals, the admin is looking for. They are looking for student collaboration, and this is like student collaboration with training wheels. Now, I will say, as I wrap this up, I've been through 5 principals, and some of them are business suit. They come in, they stand at the back of the room with a scowl on their face and a clipboard in their hand. My latest principal, I love her to pieces, I just have to say. When we were doing this, she came in, she plopped down next to a student, that we had a student group where somebody was absent. She sat down right next to them. She grabbed a card herself. She participated, so she knows what it's like from the student's point of view. And I thought that I'm so glad she's my principal right now, because I've been through quite a few that I've butted heads with. But even if you're butting heads with your principal, you and your principal, both, or your vice principal, whoever's doing your evaluation, you all have the same goal. You all want the students to learn. So I think this was a really easy way to get my students talking together, to get my students working with the sentences that I needed them to work with, and it all came out really great in the end. So I'll be making a few more videos like this talking about other things I do, as I find that nowadays it is getting harder and harder and harder to hold my students' focus. So hope to see you on the next one.